Is BIM a good idea?
It is a good idea, but we need to commit to it.
You're a bit more of an expert in BIM than I am, so I'd really like to hear from you a little bit more about what you see as BIM and how you think we can teach it.
Let's talk about BIM from my perspective, because I learned, when I was in 2013, I started learning. My tutors in the class said, okay, the future is BIM. That's what he told me in the class, and I don't really know what BIM is. And then I started reading what BIM is, and usually all the books, all the academic journals talk about what BIM. BIM is great. BIM can do that. BIM has 3D, 4D, 5D, 7D, etc. And but even though I read a lot, I don't really know what BIM is.
Well,
And then
I,
then it ends me up to take a Revit certified professional course, and then only I know. So how I know BIM is doing by doing it. So this is
hmm.
how I know what BIM really is. So yeah, it makes more sense to me when instead of reading theory, rather than doing it is much better to learn BIM. So to answer your questions, what is BIM? To What I think is that BIM is you know BIM is another advanced level of doing CAD. It has CAD. You can see 3D, because it's developed your drawings in 3D, and also it can collaborate between teams, constructions teams, design teams, and it's a collaboration tools. And ultimately, that BIM model will be transferred to the clients, and clients might be utilize BIM model as facility management tools. So this is how BIM is, and I just explained to you from the starting from the design to the end user perspective. So this is how BIM's to me. What do you think about BIM? How do you define BIM? Just can you tell me your perspective?
well, I mean, I don't know if I'm right, but I use this. I use the phrase "little BIM" and "big BIM." That is little BIM and big capital letters BIM. And BIM
Cool.
itself, it stands for Building Information Modeling, which is an activity. It's not a thing that we do, and it's not a thing that's done. It is an activity. So, but don't forget that we can use little BIM, and this is the way I think about teaching it, is that if we get the students to see that they can model a project and then use that model to extract things like elevations, sections, details, window schedules, room finishes, that kind of stuff. That is a soft introduction to building information modeling. Now, you can go to the very extreme of building information modeling, and you can start to add additional information. So we can add insulation into the walls. We can specify what kind of insulation it is. We can calculate the energy transfer through the walls because we can calculate all of the materials. So we start adding materials. We start adding the drywall and the insulation and the structure, and we add the vapor barriers and the air gaps and the cladding on the outside. But that also requires us to know information about those products. So, for example, if we're going to calculate the heat flow through a wall that we've modeled in BIM, we have to know the thermal resistance of the gibboard or the drywall. We have to know the thermal resistance of the air gaps and all that kind of stuff. And we really hope that someone's going to give us all of this, because I don't know about you, but I'm not really a scientist when it comes to that kind of stuff. But getting the three-dimensional model and getting it to do things is actually, I think, a good introduction. Remember, we've got the students for 2 years. So my
Yes.
philosophy is, I mean, the other day we talked about early wins, and I talked about getting the students to model the building in 3D and see how easy it is to generate plans and elevations from that 3D model, which is the introduction, I think, to the little BIM. And once they understand the concept of that, then you can start to add the other bits that go with it. I just don't think we're going to get to a point yet where
Hmm.
we model the slab in concrete
Yeah.
with every reinforcing bar in place and all the holes for the sanitary fixtures in place. Now, it's possible, it's highly
It's
possible
possible.
with our
Yes.
current systems to be able to do that. But the challenge is that you then go to a building site and the mesh isn't where you thought it was, or the reinforcing's not where you thought it was, because the guy building it didn't build it exactly the same way. The other thing to think about is if we design where the reinforcing should go, or we get the engineer to design where the reinforcing goes, and we import their BIM model into our project, does that mean that the contractor has to follow it exactly?
I can tell you about Singapore perspectives because Singapore, we had a lot of construction, off-site productions happens, and all the 14-story HDB, we call it HDB buildings, which is called Housing Development Board, and they build 13-story. Everything's in the factory, so it's in a control situation. Everything can be a model, and everything can be built according to the drawings, which is possible because it also helps how to assemble it with the help of BIM technology. However, if you do part off-site, part on-site in situ situations, it would be quite complicated because things wouldn't be exactly as what it should be in the drawings. And also, I also work a lot on site because I used to work as a construction manager as well. So what I notice is that we need to, if we want to introduce the off-site production process, we need to make sure all the dimensions are on-site dimensions are fabricated or cast according to the drawing. Otherwise, things wouldn't work. So I think it's also not just BIM; it's also relates to the construction management part as well. So when you just go back to models, BIMs in the slab with the all the rebars and the holes in it, yes, we can model it and we can coordinate it together. And not just that, all the, what should I say, the services also. So we do the energy modeling, services modeling. We did it a lot in Singapore. I think New Zealand is starting to doing it. So I think it should be fine. But can we, is there any peoples with the technical know-how? Do we have enough people with enough, with the knowledge and this, enough peoples? I mean, not just a technical know-how, also the demand. Do we have the demand for that?
So one of the things I'm going to talk to you about, so we can put a toilet and then we can make a hole in the slab to match the toilet. But what if someone moves the toilet? Does the hole automatically move?
No.
Because if it doesn't, now you've introduced human error into your fantastic BIM model where someone has to do two operations to make that move. And the BIM should really be smart enough. The other thing I was going to say is I have been hearing about BIM for a long time, and it always seems to me that BIM is just around the corner. It's like the nuclear power stations that are going to be fusion, not fission. That they're always just there. They're nearly there. Which is why I like the little BIM, because little BIM, we don't have to wait for it. It's right here, right now. We can start using it. We can use a lot of the principles. And if we start with those principles now, teaching our students those principles right from day one, they won't think of anything else. They'll always think of this process of the integration of the information with the drawings, that the drawings are extracted from the model. And then if you want to introduce further things like rebars and clash detection and all that kind of stuff, they've already been given that foundation. It's not as if you teach them to draw on a drawing board and then a year later you say, okay, now we're going to talk about BIM. Just throw away all the drawing board stuff you've done and we're going to talk about something completely different. But there's a couple of things that do worry me about all this talk about building information modeling, and because I know some people get extreme, we'll say, about building information modeling, and to them it's the be all and end all, and it's 4D BIM and it's 5D BIM. So if we project ourselves 10 years into the future, what computers are we going to be using in 10 years' time? If we create a BIM model now, in 10 years' time, we'll be using the same computer software to read that BIM model?
No, I'm not so sure because I've been the software comes and goes. So for 10 years, I'm not so sure what software we're gonna use.
And I mean, the phone, if we go back 15 years, when did the iPhone come out? 15 years ago?
I think
You know,
20 years ago or something. Yeah.
I mean, because the talk about BIM is that it'll give us these savings years into the future. And yet we won't even be using the same computer. We won't be using the same computer software. And one of the important things that Chuck Eastman talked about with the BIM is the interoperability. And that's a biggie. But there's a
Hmm.
vested interest in some companies making sure that BIM is not interoperable, that you have to use their program to make sure that you're using BIM. And there are some people in New Zealand who advertise their CAD software as the only BIM program available. Now, we do have IFC, to the industry
Yes.
foundation classes, to
Yes.
transfer models. And we
Hmm.
really need to make sure that the IFC is the interchange format, because that's the only thing at the moment that will allow you to change the platform you're using. I'm talking with a client at the moment,
Hmm.
and they're going through some changes. They can't decide which CAD program to use. So they're moving from one CAD program to another. Now, if one is the only BIM program, they don't have a way of transferring all that information from one to another. So there's a vested interest in a particular CAD program, ensuring that when people talk about BIM, they talk about their product.
Yes.
There's a similarity in the days when there was 2D drafting, and you would talk to people and you'd say, I teach computer aided drafting, I teach CAD. And they go, oh, I can use CAD. What they mean is they could use AutoCAD. And people had dropped the auto in order to think that there was only one ever CAD program
CAD
available on
drawings.
the market. But it was, as you know, there are lots and lots of BIM modeling programs. There's lots of CAD programs on the market. And I think we run the real danger, particularly as teachers, that we teach one program and don't make our students able to work on different programs.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point because I also tell I remind my students all the time because, okay, our school, we teach Revit, and I think your school, you are teaching ArchiCAD, am I right? So
And
I
Revit.
told them, and Revit as well. Okay, so I told my students that okay, our schools teach the foundations, which is Revit, to you, and when you go to the architectural office, there will be different software they will be using. For example, like Office A, they will be using Revit. You learn Revit at school, so you have no problem of fitting in. But if you go to another, if you want to jump and for the salary rise or something like that, or family circumstance, you move to another company, and that company is using ArchiCAD, and you you need to adapt to it, and you need to prepare your mind, and you will adapt to it. But because the thing is that they are not much different, all the CAD or BIM software, they have not much different, and you just need to adapt it. And personal things. When I was young, I lost a job. I know how to do CAD, I know how to do 3D model, but I'm very poor at doing which is that Photoshop. So my companies wants to do Photoshop, and I wasn't the companies I want to join wants to do Photoshop, and I said no, I couldn't do it. Actually, I should try to adapt to it, right? So because of
Mm.
that, I didn't get the job. So that's the example I give to the student. And because in the industry there are so many sets of software architectural technologists need to do, or for themselves or for the architectural office, they need to prepare for the architect, because it's the business. Architecture is a business. So you if you want to win a contract, if you want to, you need to, your presentations must be better than other architectural teams, right? It's like a design studio that we learn at the schools, right? You need to be better than the other people. So that is what I think about adaptability between the students, that what you mentioned, and they need to prepare, not just the students, the tutors need to prepare the mindset to adapt to the industry. Whatever the software that comes, they need to say, okay, they have, let's say we can say that can-do attitudes, right? So we call it can-do attitude. You need to approach with can-do attitude for the industry. So that's
Yeah,
we need to prepare for them.
my colleagues and I have had a long discussion before we, resolved that we should teach, or that it was a good idea to teach both ArchiCAD and Revit. And the sort of the kernel of the discussion is that by teaching two CAD programs, you are embedding into the student that can-do attitude, that the programs are different, that different companies will use different software, but you now know two CAD programs, and you can easily, or two BIM programs, you can easily pick up a third or fourth one. Because the challenge we've got is that some schools, just not because they've chosen, not because they're wrong about it, but just because of their situation, but they only teach one program. And the challenge is that you do say to your students, yes, you must have a can-do attitude, you must, be flexible about what you use, but it doesn't stop the student becoming an expert in only one program. And when they go and work for a client or go and work for an employer, they keep saying, oh, in ArchiCAD we could do this, or in Revit we could do this. It's so slow doing the program you've got. Oh, if only we had the program that I'm used to using. And eventually the employer changes, and it changes to accommodate that new employee. It's back to front business, because the employer should be saying, look, this is the software I've chosen. I've chosen it for good reasons. If you don't like it, there's the door. But if you're going to stay here, you have to work with what I've chosen. And in England, that's the way that people would behave. So when I worked in England, I got taught MicroStation. We were using a CAD program that was designed in-house. It was a big company. We went to MicroStation, and they said to me, Jonathan, we're willing to send you on a 3-day training course for MicroStation. When you come back, you'll be a CAD manager, and you'll take over this team, and you'll be managing this team for all this work. And I went, okay. And I thought about it, and I thought, I wonder what happens if I say no. There's a recession on at the moment, so I better not say no. I better say yes, because it would be really nice to keep my job for a bit longer, particularly as it's hard to get a job. But it did strike me that there was an opportunity, because what they did say to people was, let's move you off the drawing board. We'll send you away to learn MicroStation. Jonathan will be your CAD manager. He'll follow up with you, and he'll teach you in class, in the office. He'll teach you when you need it. He'll be there as your support person. The ones who said no, they finished up their jobs on the drawing board. No one's ever said anything about them, but then they just vanished. And I suspect that because they weren't moving their jobs, I'm sorry, there's no more jobs for you because everything's moved to the computer. But that was my first training. That was my first training type of CAD, teaching people CAD, helping them once they'd done the course, guiding them, and it was MicroStation, not 3D. It wasn't very good at 3D, brilliant for 2D, great for massive projects, great for the projects we did, which was shopping centres mainly, very big. So there's that issue, I think, with business, where the business has to say, we are using this, we've chosen it for these reasons, we are going to stick with it. If you don't like it, great, but if you do want to stay here, you need to use it. And I think that the way that we teach the two CAD systems or the two BIM systems in Hawke's Bay, it does encourage the student to realize that the modeling software you choose, the BIM software, is a tool, no more than that. It's no different than picking up a pen or a pencil. It's the tool you're using to describe the project. And it does worry me where you're only teaching one program. I do appreciate that you keep saying to them, be open-minded. You might have to use a different one. But the challenge is that they spend so much more time doing one program than listening to you say that they do come out with that attitude of, oh, this is the one I use. I'm fantastic at it. It's the best one in the world. But there is always going to be another one.
Yes.
There for a long time it was, what was it? Architreon, ArchiCAD, Vectorworks was really popular. AutoCAD was popular. Chief Architect was popular in some areas. They all come and go. There was BricsCAD, which used to bolt on. There was Architectural Desktop. Used to be the thing.
My favorite.
Your favorite. So
20 years ago.
Okay, so imagine that you've built your BIM model in Architectural Desktop. What do you do with it now?
I can't even open it.
Yeah, exactly.
The file is not, I can't even open it. And also there is no software in the market to open it. So it's like gone.
So, and that's my worry about this talk about BIM is going to save all this time. It's going to save all this money. It's going to do all these wonderful things. I mean, there are other programs that do some of those wonderful things that actually don't cost a lot of money. And the file format they use has been stable for over 20 years. And I'm talking about Bluebeam. I don't know if you've ever played with Bluebeam.
No, I haven't.
Bluebeam is a PDF management software. So you get a PDF file from the contractor or the contractor. It's mainly a contractor-driven software. So they get the drawing from the architect, and they're building the building. The architect reissues a drawing, and they go, okay, show me where the changes is, Bluebeam, and it puts clouds around all the changes for you, which is super cool. So it compares drawings together. But you can also you can use Bluebeam to count, schedule, quantify. You can use it for tracking who did what on the project. And when you get to very big projects, I'm still not sure that BIM is going to do what we want. That is, Ethan, you put the carpet down on this in this room, but Joe Bloggs did the carpet in the next room. So are we going to put that into the BIM model? Are we going to take the BIM model and make as-builts of everything? Or in Bluebeam, you can actually get the guy who's putting the carpet down to tag that he's done that, and then the architect can then tag that he's approved that work that was done. So we know exactly who did it, who tagged it, when they tagged it, and if it was rejected, what day it was rejected, what minute was it rejected, and all that stays with the PDF file. And as the PDF files get outdated, all that information just keeps getting embedded into the PDFs.
That's quite interesting. Yeah,
that's not
I didn't
BIM,
know that.
But that's construction management.
And
Bluebeam, I mean, off topic, I can tell you stories about it. I do like it, and I learned how to use it. I went to training, and I became a certified teacher for it. It is extremely powerful. But the great thing about it is that it's a PDF file. So you can actually give that PDF file to someone else, and they can see all the annotations, but they can't see all the report stuff. So if you can highlight stuff, you can cross stuff out, you can take 3D photos and embed them into the PDF. I mean, it's just amazing what it does. But yeah, so that's just another way, but it's not actually what you would call building information modeling.
Information modeling, yes.
So what have you got to say? Is BIM a good idea?
It is a good idea, but we need to commit to it.
I'm going to say that I love Little BIM because it speeds up the drawings. We can use it for elevations, all that kind of stuff. I'm just not convinced about the big BIM. Maybe on big projects, but on domestic projects, it's a long way off.
Yeah. Okay. So let's
stop. All right, Ethan. Lovely talking to you.
Let's stop for today, and we'll continue for next week. Yep. Thank you.